increasingly attracting bigger yachts in the region. So we have to develop our marine tourism. Additionally, the new concessions on pleasure crafts up to 44 cubic feet meters will certainly complement our efforts to grow that industry. And just to give you an example of the impact of those measures, Mr. Speaker, currently, if one were to purchase a boat up to 44 cubic feet for $270,000, for example, the total cost at customs would have been $120,426. That is with duty 20%, VAT 15%, and environmental and the other costs. Right now, because of the measure, the bold step that this government has taken, that cost has reduced to only $14,942, a savings of over $100,000. So we can soon see more water sports activities, boat tours, and the hosting of our own Mercury event. For the wellness subsector, the natural spas are usually the focus, but who can deny the entire Dominican experience is one which has wellness as a priority, from our natural medicines, clean air, fresh air, and nutritious food. The intention, therefore, is to create a holistic experience, including meditation, yoga, local agro-products, water therapy, healthy eating, and living. Dominicans involved in the community tourism level have always been an essential part of the formula for the success of Dominican tourism, especially for the heritage, cultural, and culinary aspects. And Dominicans and tourists love fun festivities and good food. So again, with the government's investment of $950,000, we will emphasize the community tourism product as a full package. Traditions, history, food, and sites, while highlighting our cuisine with culinary festivals, such as the New Foods Festival for the Cottage constituency, when we'll be joining him for his feast, and enhanced Pork and Rabbit Festival in Bagatelle and Cochrane, respectively. Our approach to site development will not be piecemeal. Therefore, the investment of over $2 million towards site development will be utilized for meaningful developments at the tourism attraction spots. Our first priority is making the sites COVID-19 safe. The ministry has already conducted an assessment to inform safety measures to be implemented at the start of the financial year. Installation of touchless units for sanitization and hand washing, preparation of sick bays at main sites to accommodate or isolate suspected cases, additional staff to facilitate adherence to protocols, and signage. The second phase, shortly after, is remedial works at the sites to ensure a memorable experience without worrying about safety and comfort. This will include improvements to trails, repairs, enhanced landscaping, and to cater to the modern traveler. Consultations will be held with site concessionaires towards improving the experience for unique food and drink options. Large investments will go towards building resilience and sustainability and enhancing our God-given gifts. Mr. Speaker, Trafalgar Falls is one of the best falls in the region, but currently if you go there, you can only take a picture of it. We have to get it to the point where people can feel the water. Waterhaven is the wellness capital of our country in terms of the numerous sulfur spas. We intend to further develop that area, with the first phase being the construction of a world-class vendors arcade with an estimated cost of $1.3 million. In terms of COVID preparedness in the wider industry, standards have been developed by Discover Dominica Authority and the Environmental Health Department for transportation, accommodation, high-volume sites and attractions, spas, water sports, dining, and other services. We have encouraged the private sector to ensure that their staff and clients are safe by submitting COVID-19 action plans and adhering to them. And this has been the basis for our standardized COVID certification program. So in order for any hotel or guest house to open up, they need to get certified by the Ministry of Health. More specifically, for the accommodation subsector, the hope is that they will prepare all-inclusive packages which focus on the entire Dominica experience. So with simply one click, people can access all what they need to come to Dominica. They can purchase their flights, they can book their flights, they can book their hotels, and even taxi and tours. So that is the goal, Mr. Speaker, by just one click on our website. Mr. Speaker, product development and implementing new industry standards is critical in ensuring that we offer a world-class experience to visitors. We have to follow certain standards in our industries and ensure that if we say that T2 Gorge is a premium site, one has a premium experience there. If we say Jungle Bay is a 4-star resort, it will be certified as a 4-star resort, and guests can expect to receive a 4-star level of service. For the 14 million, which I'm very happy about, in this year's budget, set aside for marketing, we intend to focus efforts on potential travelers, time periods, and markets that generate the highest awareness levels and greater return on investment. The intention is to use strong, differentiated images and calls to action together with effective media placements to maximize the opportunity for customer inquiries and engagement. Essentially, we want to drive more visitors to the website to encourage them to learn about and consider Dominica. And we want visitors to experience the food, lodging, people, and experiences that make the nature island so unique. We will craft messages with maximum relevance in a post-COVID travel mindset while aligning to niche interests and audiences. We believe it's critical to focus on the naturally beneficial and restorative aspects of the destination to position Dominica as the perfect post-pandemic destination. In light of this, one of our bold moves, as I mentioned, is to rebrand the destination. It's time to evolve with the times, catch people's attention, and reintroduce Dominica with a first impression that is unforgettable. Mr. Speaker, I love the energy I feel in the Ministry of Tourism. However, to achieve our goals, it will require all Dominicans to understand that we have to take responsibility for every guest experience on our island. We have to keep our destination clean, provide superb customer service, implement and respect health protocols in light of this pandemic, and make every aspect to make tourism our business. Tourism has to become everybody's business for us to be successful. Mr. Speaker, I am particularly excited about the concession in the budget for tour operators and to further so they can upgrade their vehicles. For example, Mr. Speaker, if you were to purchase a coaster for $145,000, originally you would pay duties amounting to and taxes amounting to $94,113. Now, under this new measure, those duties and taxes amount to $28,187, a savings of over $65,000. So I am urging tour operators to take advantage of this opportunity. So I'm asking the banks, the financial institutions, make packages, make money available for people to take full advantage of the measures offered in this budget. So if we can successfully implement our plan, stakeholders can significantly improve product and service, and everyone in Dominica becomes a litter police, and I literally mean that. Mr. Speaker, it will augment this quote for our marketing campaign. Many people fall in love with Dominica because of its natural splendor, friendly people, and laid-back vibe. We don't have to try hard to become your favorite island destination. It is in our nature. On the international transport, during the last fiscal year, DASPA was beginning to recover from the serious damages sustained to its infrastructure and the effects of its operations as a result of Hurricane Maria. Restoration works were completed during the period 2018 to 2019 on a number of the port facilities. Works on the extension at Douglas Charles Airport arrival area during the fiscal year was undertaken at a cost of $462,242. A new VIP building is being built at the Douglas Charles Airport for high-end guests visiting our 5-star resorts and other hotels around Dominica. The Capri's Reception Center was renovated at a cost of $2.1 million. The authority spent over $142,000 for the Rosa Ferry Terminal, Cabri's Cruise Ship Berth, Kenfield Airport, and Douglas Charles to get it ready in preparation for reopening of our borders. A new environmental health facility was built by the government to facilitate the processing of passengers suspected of having COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, looking forward to this year's improvements at our ports, $13 million was approved by the World Bank to enable the government of Dominica to better accommodate flight safety and emergency landing at our airports. And it will also factor other things like a rescue boat and auxiliary equipment will be purchased, a precision instrument approach for instrument landing system called ILS for increasing safer aircraft landing at the Douglas Charles will also be purchased. The government will also be providing a runway lighting system to light up the Kenfield Airport in case of emergencies. Also, Mr. Speaker, Kenfield Airport, which runway is about 45 years old, the drainage system will be improved and the runway to be rehabilitated in this fiscal year. At this time, let me commend the CEO of DASPA and his staff for their dedication and diligence. On the maritime, there is an increasing trend in the number of threats to maritime activity in the OECS region, and greater attention will be paid to the level of risk and vulnerability of the member states to those threats. Maritime security is strongly linked to the economic development of our countries as it relates to commercial shipping, cruise ship tourism, and other productive maritime activities. Some of the vulnerable areas identified include security of port facilities, security of commercial cargo vessels, cruise tourism, cyber attacks, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, safety of life at sea, biosecurity, marine pollution, drug trafficking, human trafficking, terrorism, and piracy. In light of this, there will be a renewed focus on the maritime sector in the new financial year. On the small business, for the financial year 2019-2020, the small business unit made available the provision of both technical and financial assistance to small businesses across the length and breadth of Dominica. As a reflection of the above, the total expenditure in grants for the financial year 2019-2020 amounted to over $164,000. This was administered to 40 small businesses within the north of the island. The sector which benefited from this intervention included agriculture, construction, joinery, manufacturing, and retail. This funding was primarily to stimulate business activity in the north in light of the emerging new resorts within that area. As a vital component, training was also administered to 92 small business owners. It's important to note that 176 people have successfully registered their businesses with the Registrar of Companies, opened bank accounts, and obtained full handlers permits and registered with the Dominica Social Security and Inland Revenue Division, a practice we'd like all small businesses to do. Mr. Speaker, the significant positive impact that small businesses are having on small economies like Dominica is well known and cannot be overemphasized. To this end, in the last financial year, the Small Business Unit undertook the following activities: conducted 1,500 field visits with recommendations for 600 clients, created Facebook pages for small business clients. So small business owners, if you're listening to me and you need assistance in preparing your business plans, business cards, logos, and designs for your Facebook pages, you can contact the Small Business Unit. In the last quarter of 2020, as part of the government's efforts to cushion the effect of the pandemic on small businesses, a credit facility of $5 million in the first instance was placed at the Aid Bank, and income support grants up to $600 was provided through DSS. To date, 390 small business owners have benefited from the credit facility at the Aid Bank, inclusive of 119 bus drivers. For the new financial year, $2.5 million has been allocated to the small business sector to continue to promote growth and development of micro, small, and medium enterprises by providing support to existing enterprises and encouraging the creation of new ones. In addition, the Prime Minister has announced a $30 million capital fund over a period of 3 years at 1%, the best ever in the world, I dare say. This is an excellent time for small business owners to invest, especially those involved in agro-processing and cottage industries. Mr. Speaker, not only will one have access to cheaper financing, the Prime Minister also announced VAT and duty waiver on equipment, packaging, and labeling materials. Now is the time for Hot Rose, Tony Punch, Coco Dominic, Selena and other artisans, Bubble Beach Spa Ice Cream, Douglas Ice Cream in the North, to expand their business so they can export to other markets. Further, our most critical goal for the new financial year is the enactment of the Small Business Act. Consultations in that regard will continue in the new financial year with the target to have this bill brought to Parliament by the end of 2020. Key components of this legislation are the establishment of definitions for micro, small, and medium enterprises, establishment of a business advisory committee, a registrar for MSMEs, and incentives, technical assistance, and finance matters. A series of consultations led by Mr. Stevenson and Ms. Nicholas have already commenced. Your feedback is critical, small business owners, in finalizing this document, so I urge you to get a copy, read it, write to us, call us, or contact us to let us know your reviews on this legislation. For the new academic year, the Small Business Support Unit intends to collaborate with the Dominica State College to introduce a Dominica Small Business Shark Tank, where aspiring entrepreneurs from the various faculties pitch their business models to a panel of investors and persuade them to invest money in their idea. Similarly, business training and competitions targeting third form high school students will be implemented in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and school principals to develop the notion of entrepreneurship at an early age. So, Mr. Speaker, we have an exciting year ahead. I want to thank my former PS, Roland Royer, Dennis Edwards, and our new PS, Lisa Valmont. the CEO of DDA, Colin Piper, and the rest of the team for their accomplishments thus far. I look forward to leading the team with my honorable colleague, Shakira Hippolyte, as we further enhance Destination Dominica. So, I now want to focus on the kind and loving people of the Soufriere constituency, who are always so patient and understanding. I want to highlight some critical projects that will be undertaken in this fiscal year. Under infrastructure.
Just for timing, 10 more minutes.
10?
Yes.
That should be fine. Yeah. The most talked about issue in the Soufriere constituency is the health center. Everywhere you go, people will be saying, Palrep, when are you getting us our health center? We are tired of going to Scott's Head. But I have news for them. We all know that the main issue with the health center was the land. We could not find suitable land in Soufriere to build the health center. But finally, we are able to negotiate with a landowner, and we have acquired land near the old agricultural station to build the health center for my constituents in Soufriere. I am pleased to report also that around 1.7.2 million has been allocated in this budget cycle to address the broken walls in Garlette, in Scottshead, and in Point Michel near the quarry. After Hurricane Maria, our sea defense walls were severely damaged, and if you look at the road in Scottshead, it is the worst on our coast, on the coast. But Mr. Speaker, I am very happy that this will be addressed by the Minister of Public Works, who will be hearing a lot from me in this fiscal year to start that project for the motorists in going up to Scottshead. I also intend to rehabilitate the Rosehill Road in Soufriere under community road programs. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to announce that the long-awaited jetty in Soufriere, not only for economic activity, but in terms of evacuation, if we have a disaster, the contract for that has finally been awarded to Offshore Marine. So that project will be funded by CATS. So I want to thank the German government for funding this project for us, which we have waited for a long time. But if all goes well and we have no bad weather, we should see that project starting this year. Our playing fields, Mr. Speaker, and sporting facilities. We all know the importance of sports for recreation, fitness, discipline, and building team spirit. This fiscal year, under constituency empowerment funds and through grants, I intend to rehabilitate the Soufriere playing field, partner with DFA to rezone and expand the Point Michel playing field, and map out the area for the Gallior playing field. I intend to complete the construction of multi-purpose courts in Point Michel. I know we had started construction since Maria, Mr. Speaker, and it got delayed, so we are hoping to complete that project in this fiscal year. All I ask constituents is when we build these structures that they utilize it and take very good care of them. Under tourism, Kone Konla, Mr. Speaker. Kone Konla. I intend to revive our monthly fish night in Soufriere so we can return to our former glory days of having the best fish in the south. I intend to work with the St. Mark Village Council to relaunch this activity similar to Grosile Fish Line. Mr. Speaker, we have a well-defined blue economic plan for the Soufriere constituency. And in this financial year, I intend to develop Champagne and Toussab Beach. For those of you who don't know where Toussab Beach is, at the end point in Scottshead. Champagne is in the top most visited sites in Dominica. And Toussab Beach is also very popular because of the joining of the Atlantic Ocean and Caribbean Sea. So therefore, we must improve visitors' experience at both beaches. On the agro-tourism, Galio shall become the organic farming capital of the Soufriere constituency. I am pleased to mention that we have registered the Galio Farmers Group, and I intend to start that program very soon. On the housing, Mr. Speaker, I've accomplished a lot on the housing, but there is so much more to do. I must thank the Prime Minister for the allocation of 48 housing units in Point Michel and 32 in Scottshead. Construction costs amounting to a little over $36 million to build those housing units. So I can't wait for this project to start, as it will also create a lot of jobs for contractors in my areas. Mr. Speaker, total capital investments in the constituency will amount to approximately $45 million in this fiscal year. Labor, Katwavai, labor is working. I want to tell the fisher folk that the Ministry of Agriculture, more importantly, the Minister of Agriculture, has assured me that you will receive your boats and engines soon. So I want to encourage my farmers, fishers, entrepreneurs, and youth to position themselves. Put your documents in order and take advantage of the opportunities before you. The onus is now on you. I am here to help you as your PAL rep, and my office is always open to assist you. And Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, at this time I really want to thank the staff and teams in the Soufriere constituency for their support and commitment to transforming the Soufriere constituency. So, Mr. Speaker, as I end my contribution to this year's budget debate, I am reminded by the Lord's words, to him so much is given, much is expected. The concessions and funding opportunities that are well articulated and intended by our Prime Minister has opened the roadways to new investment opportunities or for one to expand his or her business. It has set the foundation for our sons and daughters to create wealth and take care of their families. So let's plant and grow. Let us fish and export more. Let's develop Dominican brand of arts and crafts. Locally made, our creams, bath scrubs. Let us be law-abiding citizens. And I want to encourage all citizens who have outstanding matters with inland revenue to take advantage of the tax amnesty period up to November 2020. Let us start paying our taxes on time. Let us be business people in good standing. Take care of the homes that the government has given to you. I want us to pause for a moment and recognize that our stars are aligned for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, I repeat that. Our stars are aligned for prosperity. But regardless of this government's best effort, it can't happen without Dominicans. At a farmers' meeting in Galio, a constituent said it best. The government can't do for us what we want to do for ourselves. So decide what you want for your family, what you want to accomplish for yourself in 5 years, and let's work together to make it happen, my people. You have to declare daily that Dominica shall prosper. Our sons and daughters shall build a resilient economy. We shall have new millionaires in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. We shall build our international airports because God is on our side. Dynamic Dominica depends on us. Let us get to work, Dominicans. Leave the idle chatter for lazy men. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to endorse the all-inclusive 2020-2021 budgets as presented by the Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Hippolyte referred to as the Lion of Itasy, and Minister of Finance, may the good Lord continue to provide the funds so we can deliver on our promises to the Dominican people of building dynamic Dominica. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to make my contribution towards the 2020-2021 national budget debate. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this moment to thank the Almighty God for His goodness towards us as a nation. I want to also applaud the Minister for Health and the ministry and his ministry for steering us past another storm, which we could consider as COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, I would love to see a budget which would have ably provide countermeasures towards effectively spurring a resurgence in sustainable economic activity against the backdrop of the challenges posed by COVID-19, which is now playing out to be one of the greatest global shocks in decades. Mr. Speaker, before I continue, I also want to seek leave from you to refer to my copious notes, as is normally outlined in the standing orders of this House.
Leave is granted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think in this House, this is what the rules has outlined, and I am one who normally keep to the rules. And sir, thank you very much again. Mr. Speaker, we need to protect the health of our people and to aim to quickly recover as reasonably possible, but we should not simply return to the way the way we did things before, as going back to normal is not good enough, Mr. Speaker. These new challenges which we are confronted require great effort, a new non-partisan commitment, which should be coupled with innovation towards the empowerment of every man, woman, and child of this blessed land. And for this cause, I stand here boldly today and beseeching those who have been empowered or entrusted with the responsibility to improve our lives daily. I request of them to do it justly, do it with perfection, in a way to represent the excellence that the Nature Isle should be boasting of. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to recovery measures that will reshape our economy for the long term. Recovery measures that would embolden our people, give them a sense of hope, a sense of pride, and a sense of belonging in the Dominican context. Our endeavors now should represent a conscious decision about the future generations and generations after generations. We are now at a watershed moment, Mr. Speaker, to position ourselves to exploit whatever opportunities that this COVID-19 pandemic has created to maximize economic benefits for a speedy recovery and a sustainable economy. There's the adage that you don't let a crisis go to waste. Somewhere within the rubble, there is that gem that we could exploit and position ourselves to capitalize on the competitive advantage. For many years, Mr. Speaker, we have spoken about agro-manufacturing. We have spoken about, thank you, agro-manufacturing, agro-processing, agro-industries, in broadening the scope of Dominica's manufacturing base. And we believe that this will contribute significantly towards food security and less reliance on imports. It has the greatest potential to create sustainable jobs on many levels. And Mr. Speaker, we have seen limited investments in research and development within our these sectors. Mr. Speaker, listening to the Minister for Trade yesterday, he outlined that there's a particular outfit in Antigua who is committed to purchasing our plantains. It's all well and good. But in my mind, I sat down and I said, did the Minister of Trade consider that we could still do the plantain chips, that we're exporting the plantains to Antigua and create jobs for our own people? We need to be able to look at every detail in our process. Mr. Speaker, because of the lack of research and development within our sector, we have seen a sluggish growth and the loss of opportunities in the manufacturing sector. We currently face serious competition from the regional markets, from St. Lucia, well, to a lesser extent St. Lucia, but to a greater extent St. Vincent, as they, for some reason, have been able to gain some degree of efficiency in their process, in their operations, and now they are able to extend their market share. Mr. Speaker, we need to revisit some of our operations to ensure that we regain the position that we once held. There's always room for greater efforts, and I applaud the 23 million that has been assigned for that sector. Mr. Speaker, we need to ensure that we produce or we provide the regional markets with the quality, the quantity, and most importantly, we meet the frequency that the market demands. We saw serious amounts being placed for marketing and subsidies to drive down the cost of the produce. This is a move in the right direction, and we envisage that much more effort would be placed into ensuring that this become a reality. We have seen efforts by the World Bank, and these initiatives are good initiatives. What we want to see as the opposition is that these initiatives are now transferred into sustainable concepts, where farmers can reinvest into larger holdings and to be able to attract or to capture, service high-value markets. The question which lingers in my mind is how many of us are willing, or regardless of our differences, to put our hands to the plow to ensure that becomes a reality. Mr. Speaker, we call for a greater involvement of the Bureau of Standards. We call for the greater involvement of the Bureau of Standards in developing standard operating procedures and ensuring that good manufacturing practices are upheld. Mr. Speaker, we heard the Minister, the Senator with the responsibility for the digital economy pointed out some of the exciting initiatives that he has done, and I want to commend him as a young man for really standing up and presenting plans that are able to work once we have commitment. The development of a database to monitor the withdrawal periods and the use of antibiotics within the agricultural sector is a critical aspect that we have to explore. It should also involve plot and animal registry systems, in that because we are moving to a thrust of self-sufficiency, we need to also be careful of the residual content of our food. A farmer, maybe the member for Cottage, but I know he doesn't plant much. So, or you start planting? Bread I used to sell. I waited for you to say that bread I used to sell. Bread. But all under Kule. All under Kule. I selling bread. Still. I used to. Mr. Speaker, it's always a pleasure to, as a side, to be here, and Mr. Austria and I could exchange. We shared the same barber for a long while. I remember as a young boy. But now, Mr. Speaker, bloaters have an easier job because my hair is still there, but Reggie own is gone. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the reduction in the residues of food could also, the residues in food could also serve as a barrier to trade, and we need to be able to do research and to make the approach systemic in that every produce we could validate the authenticity, the quality, and we could stand boldly and say Dominica is producing the best produce. It's not difficult for us to do. We need the commitment, and we on the side of this house, inclusive of Dr. Daru, we on the side of this house, we stand and say that it can be done, and Dominica, we could protect the health of the people, because we don't want to have a case where we have the resistance to antibiotics, because the similar antibiotics are being used within our meat and poultry operations. So from this perspective, Mr. Speaker, we want to also see further development in digital agro trading platforms, which would account for the linking of farmers to suppliers seamlessly, with a main focus on penetrating regional markets, Mr. Speaker. There's one entrepreneur in the north who developed FarmXDA, which means Farm Exports Dominica, where is a web platform where farmers could access and have direct contact with prospective or even new suppliers. Mr. Speaker, we have now seen a thrust towards our food security efforts in developing it into a business model. We heard the Prime Minister pointed out that the abattoir is offered to the private sector for the operation. We also would also applaud this effort. However, there are certain limitations that has to be dealt with. Mr. Speaker, we need to further organize our farmers into COPs, and I saw under the Ministry of Community Development there was a sum of $576,859 assigned for cooperative development. And Mr. Speaker, this is a good model that we could consider to ensure that the supply to that abattoir is done properly. Mr. Speaker, we could also add value to our products. My research indicates that the price for backs, which is produced locally, is much more expensive than when imported, whereas the price for chicken breast I'm talking about, is much cheaper than what is being imported. So, Mr. Speaker, we could definitely look into that and readjusting our price schemes to ensure that the regular householder is able to purchase this product and to ensure that the economic activity is being generated inland. Mr. Speaker, we also propose that manufacturing of cardboards and other packaging material could be considered within this allocation, which, as opposed to the importation of these items. Mr. Speaker, we consider that this would contribute significantly to job creation and then further strengthen our economy and produce that sense of pride that we as Dominicans can take care of ourselves despite of the obvious challenges. Mr. Speaker, additionally, we would also like to see the manufacturing of other products such as personal protective equipment, gloves, masks, hairnets, with the scope of supplying the national need, the OECS, and to some extent CARICOM. Government and other financial institutions could provide the backing that would make this finance available. And even under, Mr. Speaker, we would like to see the further strengthening of our bilateral agreements with China to provide some technological support in that respect. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the Minister, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Business should be critical in our holistic development, and it should be instrumental in forging strategic alliances with other countries, and by doing so assist in improving the trade deficit that currently exists. Mr. Speaker, however, there is strong need for consumer protection and price control and a supportive legislative framework to guide the process, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, investing and improving in our music to be able to penetrate new and lucrative markets is an area that we have to consider, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we on the opposition side consider music to play a critical role in trade and tourism. As we are prepared, or are we prepared, Mr. Speaker, to lose talents like Cornell Phillip, Freddie Jason Phillip, Gomez Drago, Jerry Muller, Leon St. Jean from Portsmouth, Kenrick Lawrence from Portsmouth? Are we prepared, Mr. Speaker, to allow these bright talents to live? Mr. Speaker, we ask that the relevant ministry consider granting duty-free concessions to professional musicians, at least for one personal instrument. A basic or a standard drum could cost from anywhere from $4,000 to a serious drum would cost about $20,000. Mr. Speaker, we could also consider providing subsidies to the local music schools to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that our musicians get the relevant training and expertise to be able to compete at the international market. Let us consider, Mr. Speaker, our premier music festival, and let's evaluate the negative balance of trade which currently exists. Mr. Speaker, the volumes or the sums of cash that is being paid to international artists could never compare to what our local artists has been receiving. And Mr. Speaker, I think it's high time that we seriously address this issue to ensure that ordinary Dominicans can become millionaires through their God-given talents. Mr. Speaker, based on the negative balance of trade which currently exists, it is indicative that we have not created a world-class product. We have not, and Mr. Speaker, we need to take urgent strides into getting this done. Let's consider the Jamaican model, where UNESCO has added reggae to the list of cultural institutions worthy of protection and preservation. Mr. Speaker, we need to move beyond the norm and move into a direction that will secure the future of our country. Mr. Speaker, those stick doors, there you go. Mr. Speaker, According to the World Travel and Tourism Economic Impact Report of 2019, tourism contributes, no, it's not a thesis, bro. It's not a thesis. Tourism contributes 10.3% to the global GDP and accounts for 1 in every 10 jobs in the global economy. 30% of global services is attributed to tourism. The latest annual research in conjunction with Oxford Economics indicates that over the past 5 years, it accounts for 1 in 4 jobs, new jobs. And this makes travel and tourism the best partner for governments to generate employment, end of quote. Mr. Speaker, the vulnerability of Dominica tourism sector to external shock cannot be overstated. However, therein lies an opportunity that we can position ourselves, to capitalize on the opportunities that exist. Or are you from Penville, you know? So I know it's good to have you there. It's good to have you there, you know? Right. Mr. Speaker, don't worry, I'll leave you for Manny and Jeff. Don't worry. That's my good fellas in Massac. And I see the work going on real nice. But at least give them the painting job. Mr. Speaker,
Member,
yes, Mr. Speaker.
Member, I'll just guide you that, remember, you just have 30 minutes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And I'm urging the senior members of the House to please allow the Senator to deliver. You know, but again, when you get involved in back and forth with members, when you are debating, then you are actually running your time out. And you get distracted. So stay focused and deliver, just advising you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That being said, Mr. Speaker, how am I doing on time? No, but I know. Don't worry.
You started at 4:03, it's 4:24.
Okay, Mr. Speaker. I go in well, Mr.
So just about 9-10 minutes.
Yes, Mr.
left.
Speaker, I'm good. Okay. I'm good. Because remember, I know what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, and I've already prepared myself for that. So I know in which time I should present, Mr. Speaker. No, you'll not run me idea. Leave me do my thing. Mr. Speaker, we need to adapt our COVID-19 procedures to ensure, firstly, our safety. But, Mr. Speaker, we need to be mindful of the possibility that it may serve as a limiting factor towards our overall goal of having as much visitors to our shores. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we need to consider measures that will allow us to remain the top choice. And Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister for Tourism pointed out some initiatives, and I noticed that 13 million was assigned for marketing. Mr. Speaker, for such a very important industry, Mr. Speaker, we welcome this effort. Mr. Speaker, and we look forward. Yes, I'm always a fair and just person, I tell you that. We look forward for, Mr. Speaker, great things if we can do it well. I hope when I reach there, I'll make more sense. Don't worry that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I hope the other members will agree with me on this point. Mr. Speaker, a recent report by Data Bridge Market Research states that global marijuana market is expected to reach US $90.83 billion with a compound annual growth rate by 2027 of 20%. Mr. Speaker, I know I have seen and I've listened to our government and look at the budget plans. It's our government. Mr. Speaker, sometimes Mr. Speaker, I can get some more time, right? Because you see they're stopping, so let's go. Mr. Speaker, and I want to say it emphatically, our government, because government constitutes the judiciary, the executive, and you see, there's a bumpkin at the back, Mr. Speaker. A bumpkin, Mr. Speaker. Government also includes the legislative body, and we as the opposition, we form part of this. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move that Senator Clement Masler be given an additional 10 minutes to complete his presentation.
So all you there enjoying it, all you free, oh, okay. Let's go.
You have approximately around 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, you don't put it to a vote?
Yes. You want to proceed with the motion now? It has been moved that Senator Masler be given an additional 10 minutes. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? What? Senator, you are given an additional 10 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I didn't see that coming. Mr. Speaker. No, I'm not wasting it. I won't. Mr. Speaker, moving forward quickly, and I don't want to waste it at all. Mr. Speaker, we see the government is putting plans to decriminalize an amount of just about an ounce of cannabis, 28 grams, which is about an ounce. Yes, Mr. Speaker, roughly about an ounce, 0.9 point something. Yes, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I understand also from my reading that the offenses of having that amount would now be atoned. That means no longer it will be part of your history. I know Christ was the one who made atonement for sins, but the government is trying to offer atonement. Mr. Speaker, my personal reservation, Mr. Speaker, and that of the opposition, Mr. Speaker, is that yes, we decriminalize 1 ounce, but the tree doesn't produce 1 ounce. So what are we saying? Are we going to waste the ounce? Where are we going to legalize the seeds? Because the seeds has to go and then germinate to a tree, right, Mr. Ostry? And after the tree make the buds, and then that is the buds they actually use. So, Mr. Speaker, I am saying, Mr. Speaker, we are trying to do that. The issue of marijuana is either you full in as an industry, or you leave it out. Mr. Speaker, the approach that the government has taken is, at best, is puritanical or hypocritical, and I think, Mr. Speaker, we can move. If we are moving, I won't be able to support a move to allow fellas to just smoke. I will support a move, and although from my religious background, I will be able to look past that, Mr. Speaker, to allow us to build and tap into a $90.8 billion industry and improve the lives of the American people. So, Mr. Speaker, that thing about giving a man a slip and you have a whole pong home, that can be improved, Mr. Speaker, and I hope that Dr. Darrow can lead that cause in cabinet to ensure that he gets some. Get that. All right, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, also the issue of sports tourism, Mr. Speaker. It is a very important area, and I would just want to refer to some excerpts that I have. Mr. Speaker, in 2020, Sol Rally Barbados will be experienced 30 years anniversary of running an international all-stage rallies. Mr. Speaker, the largest competitor bases in the UK and Ireland. However, the event have attracted competitors as far as Australia, Canada, Japan, South Africa, United States, and as well as Europe. Mr. Speaker, on the website, it is captioned as Rally Cars Drive the Economy. Mr. Speaker, a key player to the island's sports tourism product, Mr. Speaker, contributing $4 million Barbados dollars every year, and to gain valuable foreign exchange, Mr. Speaker. It accounts for approximately 4,000 visitor nights each year. But most interestingly, it occurs at a period where the tourism calendar is quiet. Mr. Speaker, such similar initiatives, Mr. Speaker, could be considered within our tourism development thrust, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that visitor arrivals increases, and it also serves as a complementary product, improving the overall visitor experience on island. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, also we saw a significant amount, well, not significant amount, 2 million was allocated for site development. Mr. Speaker, I humbly suggest and believe that site development is critical in offering our tourism product, bearing in mind that the opportunities that it provides for our Dominican economy. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would further suggest within a better analysis or greater analysis of, because the government side knows exactly the financial situation. I can only report from what I've seen. And Mr. Speaker, I would implore them to reconsider and add an additional amount to that if possible, or if there's the money to do that, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that our facilities are in top-notch, considering the influx of people that we expect from the $13 million that we're going to expend towards marketing. If you expend $13 million, there must be an estimated amount of arrivals based on that investment that you have done, Mr. Speaker. And if that analysis has not been done, I would dearly implore the Minister for Tourism to consider doing such. Mr. Speaker, with this in mind, we also have the concern and want to put forward another proposal in that most of our sites are daytime access, Mr. Speaker. Can we further explore the option of nighttime access? Can we further explore the improvement of the Red Rock, Mr. Speaker? They are like ventures. For example, the world-renowned the Ritz Cafe in Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, those initiatives would be good for us in positioning ourselves to enjoy a competitive advantage within the region. Mr. Speaker, in winding down, Mr. Speaker, we heard the Prime Minister touted of 14.9 million was allotted for the reconstruction of the Eastern Bridge at Layu. This is a very important piece of our infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we also know that construction generates new flow of factor income to include wages and profits. Mr. Speaker, immediately after hearing that, I started not banging my table because I was happy. But Mr. Speaker, I started to ponder on the long-term or the long-run multiplier effect, and I think for a developing country like ours, it's 1.6. But Mr. Speaker, while all this is going through my mind, I heard the Honorable Speaker said, and I quote, "The bridge, Mr. Speaker, will be built using the same technology that we have used to construct the 3 new bridges along the EO-Libya Highway, which were recently commissioned." Mr. Speaker, I became ambivalent. Mr. Speaker, I became somewhat confused. And I was saying, Mr. Speaker, can I jump up, hooray, that the Chinese are going to pass on the technology to our local business, our local builders and engineers, or is it that he is already stating that it's going to be given to a foreign company? This raises questions in my mind, Mr. Speaker, about the Tendering and Procurement Act. Mr. Speaker, it raises questions about the disempowerment of our people, Mr. Speaker. I will be happy and I will commit myself to singing praises if it is done by a local contractor. Mr. Speaker, let's not forget The key to the multiplier effect is whether the extra income stays within the circular flow of income and spending, Mr. Speaker. And that is when we could see the real benefits of that significant injection of $14.9 million into our economy, Mr. Speaker. We need to stop capital flight, Mr. Speaker, and this is the good way of starting, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I want to urge again, and I want to re-urge every member of this House to do everything that is just, everything that is right, refrain and abhor from anything that is dubious, Mr. Speaker, because, Mr. Speaker, the budget is a budget of faith, quoting from the Prime Minister, which means we hope for finances to meet the obligation, and the member from Cassibus could help me. No. No. Not Ernie. Leave Ernie alone. Leave Ernie alone. Leave Ernie alone. Ernie a night dive. Mommy have to say. Mommy have to say. Yeah. Leave her alone. So the Minister of Education would know that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the boy, you go in church, Mandara. The evidence of things not seen. And Mr. Speaker, without faith, it is impossible to please Almighty God. And Mr. Speaker, we hope that finances meet the obligation that we have to pay, and that faith in God will give us the assurance that we will have money needed, Mr. Speaker, to execute this project, to execute this budget, Mr. Speaker. But Reggie, that's the trap you fall into, because only, Bible says, only, that's Romans chapter 1, verse 17. It says, only the just shall live by faith. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I pledge my conditional support. So, to the budget, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, they will take the condition, but it means if you go and do all what I tell you to do, I can support that. Mr. Speaker, I also want to say thank you to my constituency. Boy, behave yourself. That is where you hook again. I have my pal rep inside there, so I don't have my constituency. Which next one? Which next one? No, Mr. Speaker, I have, for the last 36 years of my life, I have lived in Penville. I have worked in Vekas. I have played sports in Thibault. And Mr. Speaker, the people of that constituency are ever embracing, no matter our political divide. Mr. Speaker, I went on a journey. I don't expect everybody to share or catch into the vision. But my commitment to this House is that after I am said and done here, everybody will say, yes, he took the long road, but he got there. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say thanks to every boy, child, or every person in the constituency. Mr. Speaker, I also want to see certain projects like the cemetery project, Mr. Speaker, to be completed, Mr. Speaker. And yes, Mr. Speaker, I'll make the most of your, I will not waste your time because you gave me the time, I will take everything, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, is you registered to get freed? Mr. Speaker, we hope that the government make good on the promises to address the land tenure issue in the Delaford area, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I also embrace the plans that the People's Republic of China again has committed to, and I say again, to Thibault Primary School, Mr. Speaker, that has to be addressed, Mr. Speaker. At the end of the day, everything that could be done for the betterment and the upliftment of our motherland, which is Dominica, which I'm so proud to be part of, Mr. Speaker. I know our land contains the brightest minds, the greatest talents, Mr. Speaker, and we just want to give God thanks and praise for bestowing these wonderful blessings on us, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we can only hope that from here on, it would be the beginning of new things, Mr. Speaker. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker.
Hold on, member. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, so I saw, my eyes fell on Honorable Roberts first, and then the member for Roseau North. So deliver, Honorable Minister Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like my colleagues before me, I rise in this honorable House to give my fullest support, 150% support to the 2020-2021 budget, as was so eloquently presented by your Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I welcome this timely intervention on behalf of the constituents of Monjon, Rivière-Siric, Grand Fond, Foyal, Tefem. Mr. Speaker, a people who have bestowed upon me the sacred trust of representing them in Parliament. I am indeed proud, yet humbled, Mr. Speaker, to be afforded that opportunity to follow in my mother's footsteps. And I thank God for the grace to continue to serve my people and Dominica on a whole. Mr. Speaker, we in this honorable House and the people of Dominica must applaud our Minister of Finance and the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, for putting together what I term an economic masterpiece. This is what the budget is all about. Mr. Speaker, this budget is tailored to ensure that everyone benefits. And may I add, Mr. Speaker, that to craft a budget such as this, at a time such as this, reaffirms this government's commitment to always putting people first. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to place on record how pleased I am to be associated with this cabinet. Based on what I have seen so far, I feel so honored to be part of the Dominica Labour Party government. Mr. Speaker, I want you to look at them. I don't know if you did that before, but take a look at these young, bright, talented, creative, and action-oriented Dominicans. Mr. Speaker, we were baptized as a new cabinet by challenges. And yet we remained focused and resilient in our quest to ensure the safety and well-being of all our people. While we are fully aware of the current global realities, Mr. Speaker, we should all take comfort in knowing that this government, headed by one of the greatest, if not the greatest leader of all times, has proved its merit in maintaining positive economic momentum. Mr. Speaker, this COVID-19 pandemic created a challenge for us all. While some countries grappled to manage this pandemic, our country, Dominica, stood as a model for all to see. We can all be proud of our response, Mr. Speaker. And though managing the pandemic comes at a price, we know, Mr. Speaker, that the best economic response is a health response. And I want to take this opportunity on behalf of my constituents to thank the frontline workers, our beloved Minister of Health, and this government for a job well done. This budget, Mr. Speaker, spells out the opportunities that present themselves to all our people in all walks of life. Farmers, small business owners, public officers, the self-employed, the vulnerable, the young and elderly alike, Mr. Speaker. Absolutely no one was left behind. A truly forward-thinking people's budget. That is why, Mr. Speaker, no matter what the naysayers may say, no amount of propaganda can power wash the good that this government has accomplished for this country. Mr. Speaker, although as a Minister of Government, I am charged with an immense responsibility, I take very seriously my obligations to my constituents, for without them, I would not have been able to assume such a position. So I want them to know, Mr. Speaker, that there is something for every one of them in this budget. I want to remind them, Mr. Speaker, that this government will continue the housing program which began in the constituency to ensure everyone has a place to call home. Mr. Speaker, just about a month ago, we saw the handing over of 64 apartment units in Grand Fond. To be more precise, Mr. Speaker, let me inform this honorable House that to date, we have over 194 people resident in those apartments. Mr. Speaker, 109, almost 200 people. 200 people who would have been left without a place to call home had not this government made housing a priority. I want to assure them that we are not finished yet, and we are getting our share again in this budget. I see the Minister of Housing looking at me. Reggie, I coming to you. Let me reassure the people of Mount John and Rivière-Syriac that I have spoken to the Prime Minister and the Minister of Housing, and work will resume immediately following approval of this budget to see the completion, Mr. Speaker, of the 12 resilient homes in that area. Mr. Speaker, this government will also be long remembered as the government which built and rehabilitated road networks across the island. It is with joy that I inform my constituents and all those who traverse the Odelis Road, which is just near the entrance to Three Rivers, that we will soon begin the slope stabilization and river protection works in the area at a cost of well over $6 million. This, Mr. Speaker, is a necessity, for it is the only road network linking the communities of Grand Fond, Rivière-Syriac, Mount John, La Plaine, Boetica, and Délices to other parts of the island, including the city. Mr. Speaker, this is a relief for all of us in the area. Mr. Speaker, my colleague, Minister for Public Works, Honorable Laville, and I have been in constant dialogue regarding the Mount John Village Road, another area that is deserving of attention. Believe it or not, Mr. Speaker, this is a government that somehow makes the impossible seem possible. I am happy to report that in communication with the Prime Minister and the Minister for Public Works, that very soon in this financial year, we will see the construction of a retaining wall in the area as part of our community enhancement, road enhancement project. Mr. Speaker, what I'm about to mention will certainly bring cheer to the hearts and minds of the people of the entire constituency. Mr. Speaker, we have been faced with constant water interruptions, especially following heavy rains. And for those of you who know Grand Fond pretty well, that is almost every other day. I applaud Elwin Astry and his team from DOASCO, who have worked tirelessly to provide water during these challenging times. Let me assure you, my constituents, that consultations have been held with the relevant authorities on the matter, and this project has been placed on the high priority list of projects to be done during the financial year. Mr. Speaker, this is surely good news for Modern Man, because this resilient water system is not only going to supply Granford, but for all the other communities of Monjon and Rivière-Syrique as well. Mr. Speaker, the community of Granford, Monjon, and Rivière-Syrique are part of what we proudly call the agricultural belt of Dominica. While we are well aware that without our farmers, we cannot survive. And I know Granford in particular is the place where we have the driest dash-ins. I know the Minister for Youth, the member for St. Joseph, is going to disagree with me on this, because we constantly talk about the dashing in bells as compared to the one in Granford. But I know Granford dashing. I know Bell Zone too, but mine is drier and sweeter. Well, my dashings are. Mr. Speaker, I must commend the government for the continued assistance to farmers. And this budget is replete with opportunities for all our farmers to rise to the occasion. The World Bank project, from which many in the constituency have already qualified, is testament to the efforts of government to rally with the farmers. Mr. Speaker, we are calling our farmers back to their roots. The markets are waiting, the assistance is available, and the time is now. I have been in discussions with my colleague, the Honorable Minister for Trade and Agriculture, on ways we can offer further assistance to our farmers. Just recently, as I think Honorable Hippolyte spoke about this morning, the government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, made available hundreds of bags of fertilizer for our farmers and seedlings for all those who wanted to engage in backyard gardening. It is a joy to see how many of my constituents have taken advantage of this opportunity. I too, Mr. Speaker, wanted to be part of it as well. And I can now boast of my little plot of cabbages, seasoning and bell peppers, and string beans, because I also went into vegetable gardening. Mr. Speaker, our Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, through his wisdom, saw the need also to engage farmers in selling their crops during a critical time, COVID-19, so that they could gain much needed income. I want to thank all the farmers who made available pumpkins, dashing, plantains, bananas, seasoning peppers, and cabbages, almost on a bi-weekly basis. And I thank all those who assisted me in collecting it and transporting it to Roseau. Mr. Speaker, I urge my farmers to take advantage of these opportunities that this budget offers. I appreciate the effort of the government also, Mr. Speaker, in the investment they have made in the tourism sector. The Honorable Charles mentioned Abawavin-Siwik. My people have been asking for the longest while, what are you doing to create access to that area? So now I can tell them, based on what you have said, that things are really happening for us in that area. I also want to mention that Rosalie Bay Eco Resort and Spa has resumed operations. A facility that has brought numerous employment opportunities to the people of the constituency. They too, will surely depend on the farmers to supply fresh produce. Presently, Mr. Speaker, they are also considering a rum distillery, and already we foresee the engagement of farmers in the planting of sugar cane to support this industry. I commend the management and staff, and I look forward to their continued support at improving the economic well-being of our people. Mr. Speaker, education is a fundamental human right, and it has been stated that the best predictor of a nation's future is what takes place in the classroom. This government has surely understood this, and I applaud the Prime Minister, the Minister of Education, and the Ministry of Education for the vested interest they have taken to ensure that no child is left behind. Mr. Speaker, I say this because so far during this pandemic, every effort has been made available through the provision of devices, data phones, and internet connectivity to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that our schools had every available resource for teaching and learning. Mr. Speaker, allow me to congratulate the principal and staff of the Mount John and Grandford schools for their dedication to service, especially during COVID-19. Special congratulations to the Mount John School for being named one of the top 10 performing schools during the recent GSAT exams. I want to thank and commend Princess George and Nikisha Lawrence, two students from the Mount John School, for obtaining a scholarship and bursary, respectively. In the area of sports, Mr. Speaker, I too want to thank FIFA, just as my colleagues did before me, for placing Grandford as one of the areas to work on the playing field with regards to lighting. I also want to thank the committee that has been set up to take care of this. I thank Mr. Martin Lockhart, the president. We all know that Grandford is the football capital of the East. There is no doubt about that. Of the East, no doubt of the Southeast, no doubt about, I should probably say the East. Now they may be saying it's the East, you know. But I want to thank FIFA for taking up this lighting of the playing field. It will certainly bring benefits to our sportsmen and women in the area and the community as a whole. Mr. Speaker, let me assure and reassure every constituent and every Dominican citizen that this budget presented by our Minister of Finance is designed in such a way that everyone can benefit. As a government, we will continue our housing programs. We will continue to rehabilitate our roads. We will provide further support to our farmers. We will continue our social programs, our NEPs, and Yes We Care. And yes, Mr. Speaker, we will ensure that every Dominican is taken care of. Mr. Speaker, as a Minister of Government, my ministry, the Ministry of Governance, Public Service Reform, Citizen Empowerment, Social Justice, and Ecclesiastical Affairs, which I have been honored to lead for the past 6 months, has been working on its mandate to strengthen our public institutions, empower citizens so as to improve their quality of life, promote social justice, collaborate with faith-based organizations, and strengthen the links between government and society. Mr. Speaker, with such a critical portfolio, we have taken time to define our priorities and design a work plan and budget to ensure we can deliver on expectations. Having defined those priorities, Mr. Speaker, we have vowed to restructure and improve the effectiveness of the public service. And in this financial year, the restructuring and reclassification of the public service will continue to be a major priority. Already, Mr. Speaker, We have contracted the consultancy services of CARICAD, the Caribbean Development Administration Center, to assist with our reclassification efforts. At the end of this month, Mr. Speaker, we would have completed the transformation strategy, outlining the activities that will support the operations of a modern, responsive, technologically oriented public service. On completion, we will proceed to undertake a comprehensive organizational review of the departments, units, and jobs throughout the public service so as to evaluate the capacity of our structures, our systems, and our staffing to deliver on the strategies and functions. Our final stage will see the reclassification of jobs and the reorganization of the pay structure to ensure all public officers are paid what they truly deserve. Just less than a month ago, we made recommendations for appointments of over 130 public officers in the service, to include teachers, junior clerks, and general appointments throughout the service. These have been submitted to the Public Service Commission for approval. This, Mr. Speaker, is an ongoing process, and already we are looking at another list for submission. Capacity building remains a high priority, and we continue to provide training opportunities for public officers so as to enhance their capacity and effectiveness on the job. These include professionalism and ethics, team building and conflict resolution, leadership and supervisory management, among others. We have also recognized the importance of proper orientation into the service. So we have begun a new entrance training program for junior level officers and first-time employees on all aspects of the public service. To this day, we have public officers who have been granted scholarships and financial support at universities overseas and through distance learning. In restructuring the public service, Mr. Speaker, a significant sum of this budget will go towards the implementation of a service delivery improvement program. It is our hope, Mr. Speaker, that this program will fulfill the demands of citizens for better services and improved interaction with government, hence increasing the efficiency of the service. We have completed a database of all the services offered by the government, and a public survey will be launched next month, whereby citizens will be given an opportunity to provide feedback on the current status of service delivery. In the meantime, a committee has been set up to conduct internal reviews and assessment of all priority services. This program is being coordinated by the Reform Management Unit of this ministry. As a ministry, Mr. Speaker, we have already anticipated the areas requiring interventions well in advance of those surveys. This includes, Mr. Speaker, the improvement in our physical facilities, the upgrading of government buildings to provide a more conducive work environment, improvement in the availability and dissemination of information, and the digitization of processes to include submission of forms and payment methods. Mr. Speaker, work has already begun in improving the facilities at the government headquarters, and over $500,000 have been allocated from this budget for this purpose. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, we are presently finalizing plans for the new administrative buildings in Roseau and Portsmouth. Mr. Speaker, you have also heard from the Minister. Yeah, I thought that needed a clap, you know. Mr. Speaker, you have already heard from the Minister of Public Works that funding in the amount of $28 million has been secured from the World Bank for a digital economy project. A key component of this project will be the implementation of several e-government initiatives throughout the public service. I wish to thank the Ministry of Public Works and Digital Economy for the excellent leadership that they have displayed so far in this process, and eagerly anticipate the implementation of this digital transformation project because of the impact it will have, not only on the public service, but on the lives of every Dominican. Mr. Speaker, this government has always epitomized what true democracy is all about. A government for the people, by the people, and of the people. A government for the people, a government by the people, and the government of the people. And it is no doubt that our visionary leader saw it fit to set up a ministry to focus on the empowerment of our citizens. Mr. Speaker, as a ministry review, citizen empowerment as providing opportunities and access to citizens to develop their capabilities so as to enable them to actively participate in decision-making and the development of their own communities. Mr. Speaker, the Adult Education Division has over the years provided quality education to the adult population while promoting life skills at a community level. In the last few months, Mr. Speaker, though challenged by COVID-19, we saw, Mr. Speaker, the transformation of their traditional methods of delivery to virtual skills training sessions, reaching a wider cross-section of citizens, both here and overseas. Mr. Speaker, over 500 individuals participated in various skills training classes, such as pastry making, cake making and decorating, home decor, among others. Mr. Speaker, this evolution of processes in the face of a crisis is a real-life example of the capacity of our public service to transform over time and meet the needs of the general public. In the last few months, in the financial year before COVID, we have trained 185 individuals in academics and 380 in skills training from various districts across the island. Mr. Speaker, I am proud of the ongoing academic program being run at the Dominica State Prison, facilitated by the Adult Education Division. Currently, 14 participants are enrolled in the pre-CSEC classes. Mr. Speaker, I must commend the staff for their dedication and enthusiasm in executing these sessions, and we are grateful to DFID for partnering with us in this program. In the last 6 months, we have also partnered with our other ministries, with NGOs, with friendly societies and religious groups to help promote volunteerism and social dialogue among our citizens on key national issues. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 reaffirmed the fundamental role of the church in society as an essential service in times of a crisis. And Mr. Speaker, as the Minister for Ecclesiastical Affairs, I wish to commend all religious leaders who came together to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the church and society on a whole. They must be applauded, Mr. Speaker, for working in collaboration with the Ministry of Health to ensure that the protocols were adhered to both at the church and at societal levels. Mr. Speaker, they prayed. We prayed, and together our prayers are being answered. I urge them to continue to work with us as a ministry and continue in our prayers to ensure the continued safety of all our people. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to thank the staff of the Ministry of Governance for their leadership and commitment to this government's vision. I especially want to thank my PS Preview. And Mr. Speaker, I look forward to working with each and every one of them on the exciting upcoming initiatives we have planned. Of course, Mr. Speaker, I must thank the Honorable Prime Minister for the confidence and trust that he has placed in me for managing and leading such a critical ministry. Mr. Speaker, a country's budget must be a plan to steer the country in the right direction, bringing comfort and happiness to all of its people. Budget 2020-2021 is pointing us in that direction. I support this budget wholeheartedly, Mr. Speaker, as I foresee a future which holds tremendous opportunities for all. I thank you.
Hold on, member for rules